Welcome to Capacity TV. We are live at ITW. My name is Nadine Hawkins, and today I'm joined by Regan Ireland. Regan is the Global Head of Pre-Sales Solution, Product and Digital Experience at Telstra International. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Good. We're seeing disruptions happen more often, and when they happen, they don't stay in one place anymore. They're spreading across suppliers, networks. How should that change the way connectivity leaders think about resilience?
I think when we think about resilience now, it's no longer about just cybersecurity. It's no longer about the things that you control entirely within your ecosystem. To be resilient now and to be properly digitally resilient, you need to have control of your own operations, assets, and networks, but you also need to extend beyond that network boundary into the entire ecosystem of partners.
Yeah.
And when we look at it, the frequency of events, the types of events, the triggers, whether it is physical infrastructure, whether it's power, whether it's connectivity, all these elements of the supply chain that can all disrupt the businesses. And the impacts of that and the effects of that are higher than ever before. So when we speak with leaders and when we help customers design solutions, we really need to think about you no longer can just be happy with taking care of your backyard. You no longer can be happy with traditional, just simple BCP practices, but the way you engage with those partners, the way you prepare for that constant threat of disruption becomes really important. And as I said, those triggers and those frequencies are changing, and it's really raising the game on what we need to do, both as an operator and a supplier to customers.
Yeah. Economist Impact research suggested confidence in digital resilience drops sharply once you move beyond an organisation's own walls. For telcos who rely on partners, vendors and connected ecosystem, what do you think the biggest blind spot is, and how do you close that?
I think ultimately the biggest blind spot is that your level of observability and what you can see, what you can predict, what you know is happening, it drops dramatically outside the walls of your network and your asset boundaries. So when we're designing solutions, and it's so critical, especially in the global telco environment, it's so different from domestic and incumbent operators where you can really own the network and own all layers of it, own the infrastructure, especially for ex-incumbents like Telstra in Australia. But in the global environment, it's all partnerships, and there's resellers of resellers. If you're not doing the legwork, you're not doing the inspection, you don't really understand what you're buying, it is common to have single points of failure that you may be blissfully and completely unaware of until a point that something happens and it goes on. So when you go through the process of buying and procuring network and services, truly understanding, working as close as we possibly can with either the asset owner, as we like to do, or a direct seller of it, it becomes so critical to making sure you're limiting those points of failure and you really understand it. And in how you engage with those suppliers too, you need to rely a bit less on the contractual obligations by themselves and a bit more in partnering with them to really understand what their supply chain looks like, so you can highlight any of those combined points of failure as you go to plan and operate your business as well.
Yeah. And we use a term quite frequently, digitally resilient connectivity. How would you define it, and how is it different from traditional resilient connectivity?
Yeah, when I think of traditional resilient connectivity and its strong parts, so it's diversity, it's failover, it's all of those good design principles. And in our CF30 strategy with Telstra, that still absolutely underpins the digital infrastructure strategy. But when I think about digital resilience, it's not just having a backup, it's not just responding to disaster, it's about how you actually prepare for disruption as a constant. It's not something that you can wait for an event to happen. It's not something you can review quarterly or annually, but it's about constantly preparing your networks, your ecosystem, and also your teams and your talent and all of your staff to always be ready to respond. And the way you respond needs to be, we can't be writing the book from first principles every time an event goes on, right? This needs to be well rehearsed. We need to have game planned it. We need to have war gamed it within our walls and within our ecosystem. So when the unfortunate event does happen, if we're unable to prevent it, everyone knows exactly what they've got to do. Everyone knows the role they've got to play on the field, and you can put these well-rehearsed plans into action. But to me, the digital resilient connectivity, it's about preparing all levels of your infrastructure and your operating stack for a constant state of disruption, as opposed to just responding to one-off traditional events that we've seen.
Yeah. And telecoms resilience has traditionally meant route diversity, redundancy, and failover, as we discussed, the strong pipes approach. What does the next phase of digital resilient connectivity require operators to do differently in how they design and run networks on a day-to-day basis?
So, as I said, at the infrastructure layer, those principles and that physical diversity, diversity of suppliers, diversity of infrastructure, of equipment vendors, all of those traditional principles, they remain absolutely key to protecting that infrastructure level. But what it means moving forward is on top of that infrastructure, where we build our highly autonomous and secure networks, it means a lot more intelligence embedded within the network layer. And that is to predict when we may have a scenario that needs to be avoided. It's about good observability when we do have an event, and it's about then maximizing the speed of recovery there. So the way we build our networks, we need to understand what are all of these possible failure scenarios. And we've invested a lot of time and effort in building digital twin capabilities on our network so we can simulate what happens if this vendor goes down because of a firmware issue, or if this subsea segment goes down, this router, this POP, this peering link, all of these different things, so we can understand how would our network react, what would happen, and then ultimately what would be the flow-on effect to our customers. So all of these things, it helps us build upon that infrastructure layer, build that intelligence into the network. And it's not all done yet, don't get me wrong. There's still a high level of manual intervention, of decision making, but increasingly we want to automate that decision making. So that's how we move from the pure physical redundancy, which remains so key, but also to that system level autonomous network and redundancy as well.
Yeah. And ecosystem dependencies are often where resilience breaks down. What is the most practical thing leaders can do to strengthen digital resilience across their ecosystem? And how does Telstra International's strategy support resilience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about partnering. It is about developing those relationships. It's not just about negotiating some SLAs during a procurement phase with your procurement teams. It's about real time, and resiliency needs to be practiced all of the time. So running war games with your partners. What will happen is your data center actually on the same power supply as our cable landing station? Do we actually have a shared point of failure here in this front haul trench out in Chengi? Things like this. You need to have the trust of your suppliers to be able to do that and to partner with them and do it in a really effective way. So you can simulate it and you can highlight those risks to each other. When I think about our CF30 strategy, yeah, we're investing in a lot of new digital infrastructure. I've had some great announcements at the show here at ITW, but we've got an amazing network. We have so many diverse paths, we have so many diverse sites and POPs, and we're continuing to invest in that digital infrastructure to make sure we can connect Australia over to US, connect you across the Pacific, intra-Asia. The next layer of our CF strategy is that digital autonomous and secure network, and that's all about predicting that failure, rerouting the traffic, responding to the events as they occur, and doing that in an intelligent way and a way that's really transparent to customers. So we can say, we've done this to prevent this, or this has happened and this is what we're doing. And then when you've got the brilliant infrastructure that we do, you've got the autonomous network on top of that, we can then really create those brilliant customer experiences. So whether it's in the activation domain about informing where a circuit's at in its provisioning steps, it's about the assurance domain where we can give that visibility of performance, whether it's up, down, substandard, all of those things come together across the three layers of our strategy so we can be resilient, but most importantly, so we can help our customers be resilient as well.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Regan, thank you for sitting down with us at Capacity TV. It's very much appreciated.
No, thank you kindly for having me.
And thank you for watching.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Thank you.